His hands were still on my waist when I heard the sound of the garage door opening. My heart stopped. Ryan froze. The air in the room shifted, heavy and cold. My husband was home, 20 minutes earlier than usual. I could hear his footsteps echo through the hallway, steady, unsuspecting. Ryan's shirt was on the floor. My lipstick was smeared across his neck. My heart raced so hard I thought it would explode through my ribs. I whispered for him to hide, my voice trembling and desperate. The scent of him still clung to me. My blouse was half-buttoned. My hair was still tangled from what we had done just seconds before. When Mark's voice called my name from the kitchen, gentle, loving, and calm, it hit me like a knife to the chest. I had crossed a line I could never uncross. The man who adored me was only a few feet away, while the man who made me feel alive again was hiding behind the door of our guest room. That moment, that terrifying, breathless moment, was when I realized that the secret I had buried so deeply was about to destroy everything I had ever loved. Before I take you deeper into my story, I want to thank every one of you for being here. To my amazing returning viewers, thank you for always showing up with your hearts open. And to my new viewers, welcome. I truly cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button, because it serves as the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. Please, make sure you drop your thoughts in the comments as you listen. I read every one of them, and they mean the world to me. Now, let me tell you how I became the woman who betrayed the man she once prayed for. My name is Emily Walker. I live in Dallas, Texas, in a quiet suburban neighborhood filled with trimmed lawns, smiling neighbors, and picture-perfect families. From the outside, my life looked like something out of a magazine. I had a stable marriage, a caring husband, and a comfortable home. My husband, Mark, worked as an insurance consultant. He was patient, dependable, and kind, the sort of man every woman said they wanted but never really knew how to appreciate. He made breakfast every Sunday morning. He kissed my forehead before leaving for work. He never raised his voice, never forgot my birthday, never made me doubt his love. And yet, there I was, standing in front of the mirror most nights, feeling like a stranger in my own skin. Somewhere between the laundry, the grocery lists, and the endless routines, I stopped recognizing the woman staring back at me. I had become safe. Predictable. Tamed. My laughter had lost its spark. My touch had lost its warmth. And though Mark loved me deeply, I began to crave something more than love. I craved to feel alive again. That craving found me in the most unexpected place, a gym. It started one humid afternoon in June. Mark had gifted me a membership at a local fitness studio, thinking it would help me feel more confident. It did, but not in the way he expected. That was where I met Ryan Miller, the new personal trainer. Ryan was everything Mark was not. He was spontaneous, loud, flirtatious, and reckless. He had that wild energy that made people stare when he walked into a room. His eyes lingered too long when he looked at me, and his smile carried the kind of danger I had not felt in years. The first few sessions were harmless, small talk, fitness tips, harmless laughter. But then came the first spark. One afternoon, when he stood behind me, correcting my posture during a stretching exercise, his breath brushed against my neck. It was an accident, I told myself, but the way my body reacted told another story. From that day, I started dressing differently for the gym. I told myself it was about confidence, but deep down, I knew it was about him. Our chemistry grew like a wildfire, subtle at first, then uncontrollable. His compliments became personal. Mine became bold. There were glances that lasted too long, hands that brushed, accidentally, and moments of silence that screamed louder than words. I knew it was wrong. I told myself I was just bored, that it would pass. But temptation rarely passes. It waits, patient, hungry, and persistent. One rainy evening, it finally happened. I had stayed late after my session, waiting for the storm to slow. The gym was nearly empty. Ryan offered to drive me home, but halfway there, we stopped under an overpass when the rain grew too heavy to see the road. The silence in that car was electric. He looked at me, really looked at me, as if he could see through every wall I had built. "You do not even know how beautiful you are," he said. I laughed, nervous and flattered, but before I could respond, he leaned closer. His hand brushed the side of my face, and in that single reckless second, I let him kiss me. That kiss was not gentle or polite. It was desperate, full of every emotion I had buried for years. It was fire meeting oxygen. It was the kind of kiss that burns through guilt before you even feel it. When it ended, I should have stopped it. I should have told him I was married. But instead, I whispered the words that would seal my fate. "Follow me home." That night, in my own living room, the same one where Mark and I had once danced barefoot to our wedding song, I let another man hold me. It was wrong. Every part of it was wrong. But as his hands explored the parts of me that had felt forgotten, I drowned in a feeling I had missed for so long, the feeling of being desired, seen, and wanted. After he left, I stood in the silence of that room, shaking. I could still smell him on my skin. My wedding ring felt heavier than ever before. I cried, not because I regretted it, but because I knew I would do it again. Over the following weeks, my life became a balancing act between two worlds. In one, I was Mark's devoted wife. Cooking dinner, attending church, smiling through conversations. In the other, I was Ryan's secret, a woman driven by hunger, sneaking away during lunch breaks and making excuses about work meetings. Each time I promised myself it was the last, but each time he called, I went. And then came that evening, the one from the beginning of this story, when Mark came home early. That was the first time I truly understood fear. Not the fear of being caught, but the fear of facing the truth about who I had become. I was no longer the woman I once was. I was someone else, someone I did not recognize. Someone capable of betraying the kindest man I had ever known. The morning after almost being caught felt like walking barefoot over shattered glass. Mark greeted me with the same warmth as always, a gentle kiss on the forehead, a soft, "good morning," and a smile that cut through my soul like guilt in motion. I watched him pour his coffee, his back turned, his voice humming quietly to the radio. And I stood there, silently screaming inside, knowing what I had done only hours before. Ryan had left through the back door the moment Mark's car pulled into the driveway. My pulse had not stopped racing since. Every sound in the house made me jump. Every word from Mark's mouth made me feel smaller. That day, as I drove to work, the reality of my double life settled in. I was no longer just living a lie, I had become one. In the days that followed, I tried to end things with Ryan. I avoided his calls, skipped gym sessions, and even blocked his number. But temptation has a way of finding new doors when you close the old ones. One Friday afternoon, I was leaving the office when I saw him leaning casually against his car in the parking lot. My breath caught. He smiled, that same daring, dangerous smile that had once melted every bit of resistance inside me. "Missed me?" he asked. I wanted to walk away. I wanted to say no. But I did not. That evening, we ended up together again. It was not planned. It was not even romantic. It was reckless, urgent, and filled with something between passion and self-destruction. When I returned home that night, Mark was already asleep on the couch, still in his work clothes, the television flickering softly. There was a half-eaten plate of dinner on the table, the dinner I was supposed to have made. I stood there for a long time, staring at him. His chest rose and fell slowly, his face peaceful and tired. And I realized that while I had been chasing excitement, he had been chasing ways to make my life easier. I wanted to cry, but I could not. The guilt had become too familiar. It had settled in my bones. The affair did not slow down. It grew. Like an addiction, it consumed every part of my schedule, every spare moment, every thought that should have belonged to my husband. There were times when I would be lying next to Mark, and my mind would drift to Ryan, to his scent, his hands, his voice. I hated myself for it, but the truth is that I also craved it. Ryan began wanting more. He wanted dinners, weekends away, and the kind of attention that belonged to someone who was not mine to give. He started to get possessive, jealous even. Once, when I cancelled our plans because Mark wanted to take me out to dinner, Ryan showed up at the restaurant, pretending it was a coincidence. The look in his eyes was not love. It was something darker. After that night, things began to change. One evening, while folding laundry, Mark asked a question that made my blood run cold. "Emily," he said, "have you been happy lately?" I froze. He was sitting at the edge of the bed, looking at me with quiet concern. Not anger. Not suspicion. Just care. I forced a smile. "Of course, I have. Why do you ask?" He shrugged lightly. "I do not know. You just seem distant sometimes. Like you are somewhere else." He said it softly, but I heard what he was really saying. He felt me slipping away. That night, I lay awake long after he fell asleep. The guilt pressed so heavy on my chest that I could hardly breathe. I promised myself I would stop for good. But the very next afternoon, I was back in Ryan's apartment. It was a small, dimly lit place with unwashed dishes and the smell of aftershave mixed with laundry detergent. I sat on the edge of his bed, my heart pounding. He leaned against the wall, watching me. "You are lying to yourself," he said quietly. "You love me. You just will not admit it." I stared at him, unable to answer. Did I love him? No. At least, I wanted to believe that I did not. But there was something about the way he made me feel, reckless, desired, dangerous, that kept pulling me back, no matter how much it destroyed me. That was the night I told him I could not keep doing it. That I loved my husband. That I wanted my life back. He laughed bitterly. "You say that now. But you will be back." And as much as I hated him for saying it, he was right. A few weeks later, Mark planned a weekend getaway for us, something quiet, just the two of us. He said we needed to reconnect. I agreed, hoping maybe that would help fix what I had broken inside myself. But the night before we left, Ryan called me. Over and over. When I did not answer, he left a message that chilled me to the core. "If you walk away from me, Emily, I swear I will tell him everything." For the first time, the thrill of the affair turned into pure fear. I tried to call him back, but he did not answer. I spent that entire night shaking, wondering if he meant it, wondering if he would actually do it. When Mark and I left the next morning, I could barely look him in the eyes. My mind was spinning with what-ifs. During that weekend, Mark was his usual loving self. He held my hand as we walked by the lake, told me stories about his childhood, and reminded me of how we first met. And for a brief, fragile moment, I felt peace. But peace does not last when your life is built on secrets. When we returned home Sunday evening, I saw Ryan's car parked a few blocks from our house. My stomach twisted. I walked inside, trying to act normal, praying Mark would not notice the tremor in my voice. Later that night, when Mark went upstairs to shower, there was a knock at the back door. My blood ran cold. It was Ryan. His expression was unreadable. He stepped inside without waiting for permission. "What are you doing here?" I whispered harshly. He looked around, his jaw tight. "I just wanted to see you. To talk. You ignored me." "This is not the time," I hissed. "You have to go." He reached for me, but I pulled back. The sound of running water upstairs was the only thing reminding me that my husband was just a few feet away. "You think you can use me and walk away like none of it mattered?" he said, his voice low but angry. "You do not get to erase me, Emily." I begged him to leave. Finally, after what felt like forever, he turned and walked out. The moment the door closed, I collapsed to the floor, trembling. A few seconds later, Mark's voice called from upstairs, "Who was that?" My throat tightened. "Just a delivery," I lied. He believed me. At least, I think he did. But that night, as he wrapped his arm around me in bed, I stared at the ceiling, knowing my double life was cracking apart. The walls were closing in. And it was only a matter of time before everything I had tried to hide came rushing into the light. I used to believe that secrets only had power if they were spoken. But I learned the hard way that silence can destroy a soul faster than truth ever could. After that night, the one when Ryan came to my house, I knew I was living on borrowed time. Every glance from Mark made me nervous. Every vibration of my phone made me flinch. I tried to go back to normal, cooking dinner, cleaning, laughing when he cracked his corny jokes, but my heart was constantly pounding with dread. The double life had eaten away every piece of peace I had left. It did not take long before everything fell apart. It was a Tuesday evening when it happened. Mark had left for work that morning like any other day, a soft kiss on the cheek, a quick goodbye. I went to the gym, intending to talk to Ryan one last time. I wanted to end it quietly and finally. But the moment I arrived, I could feel the tension in the air. Ryan was there, leaning against one of the machines, looking at me with that same dangerous mix of charm and bitterness. "I told you not to ignore me," he said. I glanced around, nervous that someone might hear. "Ryan, please, I just came to talk. This has to end." He smirked. "You keep saying that, but you always come back." "I mean it this time," I said firmly. "Whatever this was, it is over. I love my husband. I cannot do this anymore." For a second, I thought he might accept it. But then, his expression hardened. "Fine," he said. "Then he deserves to know everything you have been hiding." I felt my stomach twist. "Ryan, no, please. Do not do this." He turned away, grabbing his phone. Maybe he should hear it from me. I panicked. I reached for him, pleading, but he only looked at me with something between anger and heartbreak. Then he walked out. That night, when I got home, Mark was already there, sitting at the dining table, his phone face down, his expression unreadable. "Hey," I said softly, forcing a smile. He did not smile back. "Sit down, Emily." My knees nearly gave out. I sat slowly, my hands trembling. He looked at me for a long time, the kind of look that strips you bare without a word. Then he spoke, his voice calm but cold. "I got a message today. From someone named Ryan Miller." I felt the world stop spinning. He continued, "He sent me pictures. Texts. He said he has been seeing my wife for months." Tears filled my eyes instantly. "Mark, I can explain." "Do not," he said, raising his hand. "Do not insult me with explanations." His voice broke on the last word. That was what hurt the most, not the anger, but the pain behind it. The disbelief. The betrayal. "I have been loving a ghost," he whispered. "You have been right here beside me, but you have been somewhere else entirely." I could not hold it in anymore. I fell to my knees, sobbing. "I am so sorry, Mark. I never wanted to hurt you. I lost myself. I was lonely, and I made the worst mistake of my life." He stood there, silent, staring down at me. His hands were shaking. I wanted him to yell, to throw something, to give me something I could respond to. But he did not. He just said, "I need to think," and walked out the door. That night was the longest of my life. I sat on the living room floor until sunrise, crying into my hands, surrounded by the memories of everything I had destroyed. The next morning, he was gone. His clothes, his car, even his toothbrush, all gone. I tried calling, texting, emailing. No answer. Days passed, and then weeks. I barely ate. I barely slept. Every minute felt like punishment, and I knew I deserved it. Ryan tried to reach out too, but I blocked him completely. Whatever thrill he had brought me had turned to poison. I wanted nothing more to do with him. The house felt emptier than ever. It smelled like regret, like perfume that had faded but never truly disappeared. About a month later, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Mark. He wrote that he had rented an apartment across town. He needed space to heal, but he did not hate me. He said hate was too easy, what he felt was worse. He wrote that he still prayed for me, that he hoped one day we could talk without breaking. I read that letter every single night for weeks. It became my mirror, showing me the pain I had caused and the grace I did not deserve. Time passed slowly after that. I started therapy. I stopped going to the gym. I started writing again, not to escape, but to face my truth. There were nights I would sit by the window, whispering apologies into the dark, hoping somehow Mark could hear them. Then, one Sunday morning, he did come back. I was watering the plants when I saw his car pull into the driveway. My hand started shaking so badly that the watering can fell to the ground. He got out slowly, holding a small box. "I forgot some of my things," he said quietly. I nodded, unable to speak. I watched him step inside the house that used to be ours. The silence between us was heavy, but not as cruel as before. After a few minutes, he looked around and said, "You have been taking care of the place." "I have been trying," I whispered. He nodded, his eyes softening for the first time in months. "I can see that." We stood there for a while, the air thick with everything unspoken. Then he said something I will never forget. "I do not know if I can ever forget what you did, Emily. But I am trying to forgive you. Because I do not want bitterness to be the only thing left between us." Tears spilled down my face. "Thank you," I whispered. "I do not deserve that, but thank you." He sighed deeply. "Maybe not. But forgiveness is not about what you deserve. It is about what I need to do to move forward." Then he placed the box down and turned to leave. But before he walked out, he said softly, "Take care of yourself, Em." And just like that, the door closed. That was a year ago. We still talk sometimes. Slowly, carefully. There is no promise of rebuilding what we had, but there is peace. And peace is more than I thought I would ever have again. I learned that infidelity is not just about lust or attention. It is about emptiness, the kind you try to fill with the wrong things because you do not know how to face what is missing inside you. I hurt the man who loved me the most. I broke something sacred. But through that pain, I found honesty, humility, and faith again. Today, I no longer hide behind lies. I no longer crave the thrill of secrecy. I crave peace. I crave truth. And though I may never undo what I did, I live every day determined to be a better woman than the one who betrayed the man she once promised forever to.